Okay, so we are back online, meetings back in order, and we'll now turn it over to Echo for the variance report. Go ahead, Echo.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present the 2024-2025 variance report for the first 2 quarters of the fiscal year. And if we can go to the second slide. Thank you. So this slide contains the financial statements for our first 2 quarters. For the period ended at September 30th, the organization financially is doing great. Overall, the budget is for revenue, we have exceeded our budget, and for our expenses, it's well managed. For most of the expense line items, we are slightly behind. I will go into more details just shortly. So as I mentioned before, the revenue for the first 2 quarters is showing a very strong trend. They exceeded the budget mainly due to the full receipt of some of the annual grants in the first half of the year. And the second reason is the unbudgeted ISETS grant of 13 million was received. So this grant was not signed prior to we passed the budget last year, and we successfully secured a grant. So the 13 million was deposited in our account and recognized as revenue. Therefore, our overall actual revenue exceeded the budget. And let's move on to the expense portion. So overall, our expenses are well managed and below budget. The key contributors to this trend is the timing. First, the first quarter is usually relatively slower because some of the activities are scheduled to happen in the second half of the year, which resulted in no recorded cost to date. The best examples for the timing related behind budget reasons is the conferences and events and travel and grant to locals and regions. They're mainly scheduled to happen in the second half of the year. And the second main contributor to the below budget expenses is because delayed project start. Certain projects did not reach full capacity until later in the year, impacting the expenses such as payroll, professional fees, and contracted services. So I want to also provide some highlights and notes to our financial results. The first highlights is that we want to point out the salaries, wages, and benefits for the first 2 quarters. They are slightly behind budget. It is because it's because of the, as mentioned before, the later start of some projects, and also increase the payroll expenses in the third quarter of the year will narrow this variance. And the second item I want to highlight is the speaker fees and gifts. Some significant expenses were incurred during the first half of the year is the Cultural and Heritage Department. They incurred $95,000 of speaker fees. Policies Department incurred $29,000 of speaker fees or conference-related expenses. And the remaining budget will be mainly focused on for the Land and Environment Department, ELCC, and Health Departments. The third item I want to highlight here is the networking and relationship development line item. The full fiscal year's budget of 150K is being fast approaching and slightly exceeded by the end of the second quarter. However, after detailed review of the transactions that's allocated to this line, it was determined that some of the expenses should be assigned to the other departments and accounts. So finance will work closely with all the departments and ministries to make sure that we follow up with those misallocated items and provide an update in the third quarter or in the future financial variance updates to present the actual balance of this account. The third account I want to bring to your attention is the professional fees. Expenses are currently behind budget, which is largely because the variance in legal, business development, engineering, and management consulting line items. And the contracted services account is now overall under budget. It's primarily due to NRG, our consulting firm, has become an internal service function, which significantly reduced rates for service fees while we maintained the same or even higher supporting level. And another reason for contracted services account to have a variance that is below budget is because delays in project starts. The key areas affected this account is the ELCC, which is $1 million behind, Health Department $1.1 million behind, and Land Department or Land Ministry that is $4.1 million behind. As projects progresses in Q3 and Q4, spending is expected to align more closely with the budget expectations. And that is all for the financial variance reporting, analysis, and highlights and notes. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Echo.
Okay, go ahead, thank you, Echo. On the question list, I see Minister Bouvier. Tex, you have a question regarding this?
Minister Bouvier, happy to answer your question.
Yes, yes, I'm here. So, I support this financial budget, but again, I'm going to echo again. For 7 years, I've been echoing, and for future considerations to making sure that governance and capacity is given to the locals. We don't have a proper structure with the locals. We've got to have a better relationships. We have regions that are given operating fund, but we need to look at the governance within the local so that way they can operate and function properly. We're running into problems because they're not functioning properly. So I thought I'd bring that up because I'm still going to bring it up every meeting till I get that capacity and funding for those locals.
Thank you, Minister Bouvier. Minister Friesen.
Thank you, Minister Bouvier, for your comment. And yes, I do recall that this is an ongoing concern for yourself, and it's a question that's raised consistently by yourself. I'd like to reassure yourself, Minister Bouvier, and my colleagues around the Provincial Métis Council table that this is also, we echo your concern and share that concern with you. And so this is a part of our road to treaty as well. Those appropriate negotiations being adequately resourced in areas, and of course capacity for locals and regions are on the radar when it comes to supporting our local governance structure. So that is also a priority within the Ministry of Finance and a part of our negotiating package as we move forward with negotiating a fiscal finance agreement, number one. Number two, of course, we don't have it in this governance structure at the moment. The core governance, it is what it is. However, the opportunity that exists for locals to access other funding other than core governance dollars that M&S provides is through ELCC, the Community Enrichment Grant or Community Enhancement Grant of $50,000 for locals to access. Of course, there's some criteria attached to that. And also Wellness Through Our Lands, I believe it's a $10,000 grant that locals can access through the Ministry of Health with that program funding, and it has been renewed. So locals would be able to access that and have been up until the fiscal year end of March 31, 2025. So those are two areas that I know that locals will have opportunity to further access funding from Métis Nation Saskatchewan. So thank you very much for your comment, and I hope that answers your question, Marcy.
I'd like
Thank
to
you.
alleviate, I guess, regarding giving funding to the locals that aren't organized. How do you determine their criteria? That's the question.
I may answer that if I can,
Please. Yes.
Mr. Chair. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Minister Bouvier, for the clarification. The locals must meet minimum standards or minimum criteria before they can access the funds. So, i.e., they have to have a bank account. The funds don't go to individuals. They must have a bank account. They must have a motion from their regional council, or from their local, sorry. And they do meet. They must meet the criteria of how those funds are set up. So it's not just doling out funds for just a simple request. They must meet the criteria that is set up for that program and the funds that are connected to the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister and Minister. Minister Gervais, question for Echo.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like a little bit of an explanation when I'm looking at expenses. We've got Q1 actual, or Q1 to Q2 grants to citizens, 8 million. Just clarification, what are those, like, what are we referencing there? And grants to regions and locals, 4 million. I'm assuming that that's as Minister Friesen just said, the CEG and stuff like that. So I understand that. But what are the grants to citizens? That's my first question.
Thank you for the question. I can take this one. The grant to citizens is comprised with the ELCC supports to the citizens, the health and mental health department's support to medical travels, and healthy lifestyle support programs, and the other educational related and recreational related youth activity expense reimbursements or grants to our citizens.
Okay, thank you very much, Echo, for that. I assume that's what it was, but I just needed clarification. The other question I have is moving down on the budget line. We have networking and relationship development, 156,000. Can I get an explanation of that?
Yes. Thank you for the question. Yes, I can also provide some details of that 156,000. So mainly the 156,000 was comprised of our sponsorship and some of the tournaments that the M&S representatives participated to represent our organization. And we also noticed that due to the lack of discipline in account coding or GL management, some of the other departments, different category or expenses from different categories were coded to this line as well. But it is well after we need to submit the report that we had a chance to review this 156 in detail, and we identified quite a large amount of funds or transactions that shouldn't be here. So once we finish the adjustment, this 156,000 will reduce. It will be mainly just the events that we sponsored and participated to represent our organization and broaden our impact and involvement in the community will be allocated to this account. And all the other accounts or transactions that are currently sitting in there, I can provide some examples, such as some conference fees were coded to there, and some of the travel supports were also allocated to there as well, which they shouldn't be. But it is more of the development and training that we need to provide to our staff going forward that will mitigate those risks and reduce the error going forward. I hope I addressed your question.
Thank you, Echo. I have one more question regarding that, first of all. So the number is high because there's been wrong coding, and you gave us examples of what's been included in that needs to be pulled out. So then can you give us some examples of what is actually included in that?
Yes.
Okay. And just Echo, before you begin, when you refer to the MNS, refer to it as a government, not an organization. Just
Yes. Sorry,
language
I will
matters. Okay,
correct that
go ahead.
language. Yes.
And just FYI, folks, we're going to finish this part on the variance. Then we're going to have our lunch break as usual, and we'll pick up with the our moment budget update after our break. So Echo, we'll finish off this part and then we'll take our break.
Thank you. Okay, so I can provide a couple examples of what should stay in there. For MNS government impact, we will sponsor golf tournaments and participate in some of the community events. So those sponsorship funds or fees will be included in there. And also attending the actual conferences or meetings with the other governments or the other organizations, business corporations, as a representative of our government, those expenses are included in this account.
Thank you very much for that, Echo. And I have one last question. Advertising and promotion. Can you explain what's involved in that? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. The main expenditures going into the advertising and promotion account is the fees paid to various medias for our Moment campaign and the other storytelling related or publication related expenses, but mainly it is our Moment campaign.
Thank
Okay.
you for that. Oh, sorry, Ms. Gervais, you have more?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Minister Pruden, if it's short, we'll get her in before we take our lunch break.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Echo, for helping us to understand the breakdown. I just have one quick question. I'm looking at the bottom line, fund balance ending. All of them are in deficit. So are you saying that every quarter went over budget by those amounts in the last four columns, like 215, 41, 194, 20? I just need that clarified. So are we extremely over budget because it's showing in red? The fund balance ending, that whole bottom row there.
Yeah, so thank you for the question, Minister Pruden. If I can request the slides to be zoomed out slightly. so we can see the headers of all the columns.
Okay.
Okay, great. So thank you. So as we can see, the columns with the red fund ending balance numbers are the budget for Q1 and Q2 and annual budget. The variance or the remaining budget columns are actually just a calculation of where we're at. And those numbers just showing that we are behind budget. And, the expenses are, or I should say, okay, back to the question. So are we vastly under budget and overspent? No, we are not. And for the reason that some of the fund balances or for the budget to have a deficit fund balancing fund balance at the end of the year or the quarter is because if I can draw your attention to the first line under revenue section, which is the fund balance beginning, the fund balance beginning balance is the beginning number is actually not budgeted in our, or is not showing in our budget. And I learned that was just a timing issue. So we didn't have the fund balance until the budget was passed. So once we layer on the fund balance, we are sitting at a very healthy position. Without a fund balance, I believe the budget was done based on assumption of that we have residuals from prior year, and we need to budget for the current year and bring over and take into consideration of prior year's residual. So you will see that for our budget, Q1 and Q2 column, as an example, we budgeted the revenue of 70 million, but we expected to spend 90 million in total expense. And that is a reflection of, we know there were residuals, but we don't know how much exactly the residual will be. So being conservative, we budgeted the expenses to be slightly higher than budget, than revenue. So, and then that trend will carry forward to the annual budget, which is $41 million of, perceived deficit, but that's because the method we use is to be conservative and prudent with our funding. So without knowing how much opening balance or residuals we can carry forward, we budgeted slightly higher than the confirmed revenue, just to keeping the government's financials strong. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Echo.
Sorry.
Yes, Minister?
Just one other question. The grants to external parties, if you could explain to us what that is.
Okay, and this is the last question, then we're breaking for lunch. Echo, if you could explain that one, please.
Yes. The grant to external parties is, I am having some difficulties of bringing up notes. Sorry. Here we go. And please keep me honest, Minister Friesen and Matt. My understanding of grants to external parties are the grants distributed to Dumont Institute, and that accounted for a majority of those funds.
May I respond, Chair?
Sure, Mr. Friesen.
Thank you. Thank you, Echo. Yes, you're correct. It also includes the grants to school divisions for the Michif Pre-K and other programs that we've partnered with school divisions. So it would include that as well.
That's correct. Thank you.
And I think Matt wants to add one thing to that, and then we'll take our lunch break.
Yeah, and it's actually not to the grants to citizens, it's to the comment before on fund balance. And so I think Echo did a great job of answering that. And when we set the budget last year, we were taking a bit of a pragmatic, and conservative view towards things, thinking, well, we're always going to be ahead of the 8 ball in terms of spending funds before we receive them. And so that's why we were saying we were probably going to have a bit of a fund deficit, but it hasn't happened. There have been some delays in program launches, but one of the other things that I wanted to point out is we've also got a very good credit rating with Canada. And so Canada on an ongoing basis assesses us and for our kind of credit rating and risk rating. And so we've been able to grow that over the years to the point where we have an optimal rating. And so what that means is that Canada is very happy with the way we're operating the government and the finances, the financial aspect of the government in terms of our reporting to them, our consistency in kind of delivering as we were saying we're going to deliver. And so when you get to the point where you're kind of rated optimal, that means that they front load a bunch of your money. So we get a bunch of our payments in full at the front end of the year and only have to do kind of annual reporting now. And so that plays a role too, because that was something that Echo pointed out, was that our revenue is higher than budgeted, and it's just because Canada's got the comfort in our ability to manage our finances, and so we're just seeing the money coming in a lot earlier. So,
And may I just add, Mr. Chair, to what
Yes.
Matt is saying? That is very different. Matt is exactly right. The way that we have built that relationship or rebuilt the relationship in the fiscal management with the government of Canada is a testament to our hardworking team and to all of you. We've done our due diligence, and our fiscal management and management of risk is minimal, and government of Canada has full confidence in Métis Nation Saskatchewan. So that's why our contribution agreements are now, we're only reporting annually in most cases. Some we still report on a quarterly basis, but that is due to the due diligence of this government and our administration. Marcy.
Chair,
Yes.
and this is Minister McLennan. Just, we haven't got the download yet, so hopefully that will come during lunch.
The download of what, Minister?
The variance.
Oh, it should be there. But yeah, it's refresher, whatever it takes.
It's coming through our email. That's how it's coming.
It'll be in your package. You'll have to go to the
Okay.
the online binder.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy your lunch, folks. We're gonna reconvene at 1 o'clock. Thank you. Enjoy your meal.